Near the end of 1764, the first full year of their great American surveying expedition, Charles Mason, Jeremiah Dixon, and their party briefly camped on the banks of the Nanticoke River. The surveyors spent a few days at the site, awaiting supplies from Philadelphia. Mason used the time to explore his surroundings. What he discovered in the heart of the peninsula separating the Delaware and Chesapeake Bays was spectacular natural beauty. The flora of the nearby Pocomoke Swamp took Mason's breath away. "There is," he observed, "the greatest quantity of timber I ever saw." And that timber was not merely abundant, it was also majestic. Giant oaks, beeches, poplars, hickories, hollies, and bald cypresses. Above them all towered the lofty cedar, its trunk shooting skyward, a colossal wooden vessel whose green conical top seems to reach the clouds. During the preceding 3 months, the surveying party had slowly made its way south, plotting the 82-mile meridian line that would separate Maryland from the lower counties, also known as the Delaware Colony. The party had traversed a landscape bearing the marks of centuries of human habitation. Much of what had once been heavily forested coastal plain and wetlands was now cleared and drained, first by native farmers and dugout canoe makers, and later by English tobacco planters and their servants and slaves. By the time Mason and Dixon's party traversed the peninsula, many of those farms had begun abandoning tobacco for grain, but the effects of a century of intensive tobacco farming were plain. Only at the Pocomoke Swamp, a remnant of primordial wetlands that once enveloped the peninsula's southern reaches, did Mason glimpse American nature's sublime majesty. In the coming century, that remnant would shrink further, drained by farmers and cleared by loggers. From spring 1765 to late fall 1767, Mason and Dixon plotted the west line separating Maryland and Pennsylvania and carrying the surveyors deep into the North American woodlands. Few Englishmen would have a better grasp of the stunning topographical range of eastern North America. From the coastal plain of the Delmarva Peninsula, as the entire eastern shore peninsula would later come to be known, the surveyors passed into the rolling northern Piedmont of Cecil County in Maryland and Chester and Lancaster counties in Pennsylvania. What they saw of the human-made landscape differed from eastern shore Maryland. In place of small tobacco and grain plantations worked by white farmers, their servants, and African-American slaves, the region was a patchwork of forests and the family farms of English, Scots-Irish, and German migrants. As the surveyors moved west, through the fertile Piedmont to the North American continent's aged eastern mountains, they crossed the broad, shallow Susquehanna River. By the end of September 1765, they had hauled their party up and down South Mountain, the northernmost of the Blue Ridge Mountains. On South Mountain's western face, they found a brief reprieve in the Great Cumberland Valley, known further south as the Shenandoah Valley, and separating the eastern Blue Ridge from the Appalachian Plateau, that vast assemblage of mountains, valleys, and waterways through which runs North America's eastern continental divide.